Today we're going to discuss the 12 must-see exhibits at the New Mexico Farm and Ranch Heritage Museum. I'm not saying that these are the only exhibits at the Farm and Ranch Museum. However, these are just my breakdown, in my opinion, of what I think are the 12 best things to see there. These are not an official list. This is not something put together by the museum itself. So this is nestled on a 47-acre property. We'll mention first that there is a gift shop if you want to check out from New Mexico products, as well as nuts and other local wares that they sell there. And so going into the list, at number 1, we have antique farm equipment. Now throughout the museum, including the front of the museum, also in the back of the museum, there's going to be antique equipment pretty much spread throughout the whole museum. I would recommend you take a look and walk around here. There are going to be some signage that tells you what the different machines are. And this is just a carriage that you'll see as soon as you walk in the main entrance. But throughout the whole museum, you'll find various types of hair loaders and various other mechanical devices. There's also historical information available about what each of the machines are. So if you want to take some time, if this is something that you're interested in, you could probably spend hours walking around outside looking at all this equipment. Nice thing is that it is a New Mexico desert. It's very arid. So the stuff is very well preserved, even though it's mostly on the outside. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, it's interesting. So number 2, there's a lot of farm animals here. I think on average, I heard that they said that they average around 80 animals, everything from bulls to horses to sheep. There's various subspecies of the different types. That horse was actually very friendly. There's even a large barn there. When I walked through, there weren't any. Here's a longhorn. I don't know if you can see it in the camera very well. And then most of the sheep and goats are actually kept together inside one barn area. When I went in there, it was actually kind of quiet. The sheep and the goats looked like they had just recently got some wool trimmed off of them. They were actually very quiet and looked a little bit uncomfortable when I walked up to them. So they're a little skittish of people. Next one is the historic Green Bridge. This used to be called the Pecos Bridge in 1902 when it was first built. It was part of a 3-span bridge over the Pecos River. And then in 1944, the middle center bridge was moved over to Rio Hondo in Lincoln County. So now is the Rio Hondo Bridge. And right now it's the largest museum exhibit, and it crosses over the arroyo that connects the north and south end of the property. So pretty cool thing. So Beyond the Farm. Beyond the Farm is just mostly hallway exhibits that focus on local prominent people and groups that have contributed to groundbreaking research and discoveries that contributed to agriculture in the state of New Mexico. A lot of scientists there. The next one's a dairy spot. This one's a pretty neat exhibit. It's very interactive. They have things mostly for kids, but even adults can learn in there. You can learn stuff about ice cream making, butter making, milk, pasteurization. There's in fact some butter that was actually made in there when I was there. There's going to be information about breeds of dairy cattle, also sources of milk and how milk is pumped from cows, and of course also nutritional information. There's interactive videos that are very educational, and there's even an area where you can have child's birthday parties, and I don't know if they actually have them in there. But if you're interested, I'm going to talk to museum staff. That's up to them, not me. But when I was in this area, they were playing country music very loud, so I had to kind of shut off the sound of the video, unfortunately. So there's also an area of saddle makers of the Southwest, which it kind of gives you an idea of how saddle making was made. In fact, I actually have a friend of mine that actually used to make saddles and church classes on it. But this area and there goes into the tools, the trade of saddle making. Now this is AgriBility. This is a very interesting program, mostly by the United States Department of Agriculture. Helps disabled farmers. Sometimes farm work can be very dangerous. There is a tractor simulator in there as well. Also, some information about agriculture beginnings. So early New Mexico, farming started about 4,000 years ago. There's some corn inside that hole there. And this is, I think it's pronounced a Mongolian pit house. You're going to see more of it here on the side, but a house that they have depicted how people used to live in ancient New Mexico. And of course, you could also see the murals of the paintings that were on the wall too that depicted indigenous people. A lot of information about early farming and agriculture in New Mexico. Also, New Mexico colonial homes. So this home here, I think, is a replica of an 1815 building that might have been typical of a family might have lived in back in those days. Gives you an idea of early life, from the early days when we start moving more into our modern era. You can even see replicas of antiques. Actually, I think that's an actual antique in the corner right in front of you. And even a little oven there. And the doors, of course, are very short. I had to duck so I wouldn't hit my head on them. So now we're going to get into number 10, which is going to be wheels and gears. So it kind of goes with the tractors we saw on the inside, but this is the vehicles mostly from the early 1900s, including Ford Roadster over there, 1920s gas pump, various antique vehicles that were used around 100 years or so ago, and that was important to producing agriculture in New Mexico. A little bit about the design of wheels. And this very ancient wagon here. This hearse you see on the left side, that's from in 1908. It was used to carry the body of Pat Garrett. The reason why we believe it was used for Pat Garrett is because that was the only hearse available in 1908 when he had passed away after he was murdered. Pat Garrett, of course, is famous because of his right incident with Billy the Kid. And he was also the sheriff of Donna Ana and Lincoln County. Some very well restored tractors. And then this area here shows some of the older tools. You don't see any power tools in there. As we get closer over here on the right hand side, you'll see the white wall. As I pan over, you're going to see a building over there. As we start getting a little bit closer to our modern era. So farm life in New Mexico, number 11. Kind of give you an idea what it was like to live in the farms probably in the 40s or 50s. Shows you setup, antique stove, and refrigerator as we start getting into more of our modern times. Even an antique phone. And then here's one of those old, basically the Walmart of the day, the mercantiles or the general stores. We're going to go inside, take a look around in there. Little place to eat. Looks like a counter, some fresh produce, weapons. Overall, pretty neat place. There was some very vintage looking products, an old post office. The railroad. And of course some coaches. And if you can just take a moment to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. But we still have more. Number 12, Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County War. So there's some information, of course, about cattle drives. Billy the Kid was a cowboy. He was also a hired gun, and he was involved in the Lincoln County War. There's a lot of information about his involvements. Billy the Kid did spend a lot of time in this part of New Mexico, close to where the museum is located. He was known to hang out in the town of Mesilla, which is actually nearby Las Cruces. There was some products there. While I was in there filming, I remember a lady started commenting about how many pictures must have been taken. But there's some interactive exhibits in here, and there's even videos, so you don't have to read the entire time. You can also listen to some of the videos in here. This particular section mostly focuses on the actual Lincoln County War.
Four deputies make their morning rounds on April 1st.
And of course, if you think that there's anything that I should have included in this list of 12 exhibits that are must-see at the museum, please let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. I want to hear your opinion as well. And I hope you have a good day. Here's a last little glimpse. And please like and subscribe. Thank you.